And then one night we went to the Maple Leaf Lounge in New Orleans, and Gatemouth Brown was the headliner. And for 2.5 hours, including a short break, I was no further than I am right now from you to Gate. And he always had guitar players trying to find out what he was doing, wore a big black cowboy hat, and he'd keep his head down. And he knew I was there to just see what he was up to, but he was such a musician, it was hard to catch his thing. But he was also generous with me, and when he was getting ready to do some trick on the guitar, he'd pick his head up, look me in the eye, and smile. And then he'd pull off some guitar wizardry like I had never heard, except on his records. And so the connection was in, and at some point he broke a string on that iconic Firebird guitar of his, and he had a Washburn because he was sponsored by Washburn as well. And I said, Gate, you want me to change that string? And he said, yeah, I do. And he handed me the guitar across the monitors. And Joe Crown was the keyboard player, fantastic. And the band was cooking. I mean, it was one of the tightest organizations I've ever heard in my life. Total dynamics. And Joe Crown leaned over the keyboard and said, don't give the guitar to that kid. Not that I was a kid, I was in my 50s. And Gay said, he'll be all right. And so Joe Crown pointed to this road case they had. And he said, the strings are in there. And the road case was one of those big construction toolboxes like you see in the back of a pickup truck for a construction company. And I went over there with the guitar, and the place was jammed. I mean, it was shoulder to shoulder, holding this Gibson Firebird that weighed as much as me, hoping I could change the strings on it because they had a very weird bridge setup. And leaning on that road case of theirs was Deborah Coleman, great blues woman from New Orleans, and Kenny Neal, another great blues man and soul singer. So the three of us started going through this road case until moving all these cables and mic boxes and crap out of the way. And we finally found the strings bundled up in big bundles like that with rubber bands around them. And between the three of us, we figured out how to change the string, and I got the guitar back to Gate. As soon as he could get it back, he put down that Washburn and played that Firebird the rest of the night. And at some point, Steven Seagal came in, who was still cutting his teeth, with some retinue of followers, because he was a Hollywood kind of guy, but loved New Orleans and loved Gate. And he had some, ultra mega bucks, ancient Fender Stratocaster. And he got up and played, and also the sheriff, this Asian guy, who was a sheriff in that county, New Orleans, who did some singing, and Gate put it off as long as he could, but eventually he had them come up. And they did the thing, and Gate backed them and made sure it was okay. And every once in a while he'd look up at me and laugh, or smile. And I went outside with him on the break. He had pretty bad lungs at that point. They were making sure they stayed on top of him. Joe Crown had his inhaler, and I can relate to that because I'm still using inhalers. And yeah, so Gate was on the table, and he said, yeah, I'm tired. And he was lying down like that. I bought an album off of it. He said, do you want me to sign it? I said, no, you don't have to bother doing that. I said, I'm loving your show, thank you. Went back inside, let him rest. And eventually this package arrived in my mailbox a couple of years later with a domino and no note. It was an Austin postmark. And it was a domino, snake eyes on one side, and the other side had a portrait of Gatemouth Brown with that Firebird guitar. And I've worn that on every gig where I get money ever since. And I knew who sent it to me, and it was Greg Eisor, the harmonica player. So anyway, that was quite a lesson, that show.